You float in the quiet of space, deeper than deep, where stars seem fewer and silence grows thick. Here, at the boundary of knowing, your attention is drawn to a place both real and impossible, the edge of a black hole. It doesn't shout, it doesn't shine, it doesn't reach for you, and yet, everything about it feels like an invitation. You're near the event horizon, the threshold where even light, swift and stubborn, must bow to gravity's command. This edge is not a place you can see with sharp lines or firm shape. It is a feeling, a fading, a place where the known laws of the universe begin to stutter and stretch. The black hole doesn't devour as you might imagine. There is no swirl of chaos here, no violent swallowing. Instead, it waits, quiet and sure, a perfect listener in a cosmos full of noise. Around it, space curves like soft fabric tugged tight around a pebble. But this pebble is no ordinary weight. It's a collapsed star, a former giant, now curled into a singularity, a point with no size but infinite gravity, matter compressed to the edge of comprehension. As you hover here, gently, not resisting or approaching, you begin to feel what it means for space to bend. Lines that should be straight no longer obey. Light, which always travels in straight lines, begins to arc like a dancer pulled toward an invisible partner. The very geometry of the cosmos is redefined here, rewritten by mass and by time. Time. Here's the strange thing. Time slows down. Not for you perhaps, but for anyone who nears the black hole. To an outside observer, you would appear to freeze, caught forever at the edge, your clock ticking slower and slower, until at the exact brink it almost halts. That's the beauty of general relativity. Time is not a drumbeat, echoing through all the universe at once. It is stretchable, warping under the presence of gravity. And nowhere is this more evident than right here. This edge, the event horizon, is not just a border of space, it's a border of certainty. Once crossed, no information returns. Not a whisper, not a photon, not a clue. It is the cosmic point of no return, where even the speed of light is too slow to escape. But don't be afraid. You are not falling. You are observing, dreaming, imagining. Behind you, far away, stars still sparkle, some born long after the black hole itself formed. Those stars tell stories of fusion, of light and heat, and time's slow blossoming. But here, at this boundary, there is no story told in light. Instead, this is where stories are hidden, not lost, just concealed. Physicists believe black holes may store information on their surfaces, like memories etched into the skin of the cosmos. That idea, strange and still uncertain, comes from something called the holographic principle, a theory suggesting that all the three-dimensional data swallowed by a black hole might be preserved on its two-dimensional boundary, as if the universe remembers everything, just in a language we haven't learned to read. Look closer, not with eyes, but with thought. This isn't just a place of endings, it might be a place of beginnings too. Some theories suggest that inside, at the singularity, all the laws of physics unravel and reweave, and perhaps, in some unknowable way, black holes are not the dead ends we think they are. Perhaps they are bridges, perhaps they are seeds, perhaps they are pages folded inward, hiding another story. You drift along this edge, sensing not danger, but wonder. The universe feels older here, heavier, more secretive. The event horizon doesn't push you away. It doesn't pull you in. It simply marks the point where the known yields to the unknowable. Light curves around it in delicate spirals. Photons that skim this edge can orbit for ages, caught in endless loops, never quite escaping, never quite falling. This region is called the photon sphere, a liminal space where light forgets how to leave. And as you watch those loops of light, you begin to understand this place, this silent edge, is not violent. It is not cruel, it is not evil, as once imagined in ancient metaphors. It is simply gravity perfected. It is what happens when matter folds space with such intensity that the universe itself flinches. Even now, Scientists peer into the night with radio telescopes, gathering whispers from supermassive black holes at galactic centers. In 2019, we saw the shadow of the black void circled by light, and it looked like a ring of fire, burning softly in the silence of space. You remember that image, you let it hang in your mind, like a painting on the wall of thought. This, then, is the beginning of your journey. Not by movement, but by attention. Not by stepping forward, but by leaning inward into questions that don't resolve, into physics that hums like poetry, into the folds and creases of a universe, so vast it curves back on itself. You are not alone here. Every curious mind has stood at this edge, Einstein, Hawking, and others wondering what lies beyond, what happens to time, to space, to meaning. You wonder too. Does time end inside, or does it begin again, somewhere else? Do black holes shrink over time, evaporating slowly through Hawking radiation, whispering themselves away? Is there another side? You don't need answers yet. Just questions, questions that hang like stars outside your window, as you drift, eyes closed, thoughts open, breathe, float. Let the event horizon hold your gaze without fear. For just beyond this chapter's edge lies a mystery even stranger, not what enters the black hole, but what it leaves behind. Not in space, but in thoughts softly suspended in the unknown. There is no ground beneath you, no up or down, only the slow hush of silence, and the feeling that something immense waits nearby, just out of reach. A presence, vast, invisible, quiet, yet somehow impossibly heavy. This is the shape of a black hole, not a shape like a pebble or a planet, not a surface you can touch. It is the shape of absence, a place where matter folds inward, where gravity stops playing gently and begins to devour. You imagine holding a ball of light. You toss it outward, but it curves, spirals, loops back. Even light can't escape. The fabric of space around this shadow isn't flat. It curves like a whirlpool, pulling everything in. Time itself slows as you approach. Seconds stretch into eternities, and yet there's no edge, no crust to scrape, no wall to knock. You might expect something so dense to have a center, a pit, a core, but instead you fall into an idea, a singularity, not a point you can see, but a place where equations stop speaking. Mass is here, yes, perhaps the mass of 10 suns, perhaps 1 billion, but it no longer sits in space like a stone. It becomes where space collapses. This is not an object, but a condition, and this condition has a name: curved space-time. The ground you walk on, the bed you lie in, the air around you all live in what we call space-time. Usually it behaves, but introduce enough mass, and space-time bends curves into a pit, so steep that not even light can climb out. And so a black hole is not an object at all. It is a place in space where space itself gives way, a hole not in something, but of something, like a story with no final sentence. You try to picture it, a planet crushed until its size vanishes, but its weight remains. It's like folding an entire mountain into the width of a grain of sand, and yet this sand doesn't sit quietly. It warps the world around it like a heavy dream that sinks into your pillow. No one sees inside a black hole. There's a horizon not like the sunset, but a boundary of no return. This is called the event horizon. Once crossed, even time itself cannot go back. Outside the event horizon, we still have rules, Einstein's, Newton's, but inside, our theories break apart. What lies beyond is mystery, a singularity perhaps, or something stranger. No core, no bottom, just a place where knowledge runs out of breath. And yet, the black hole is not a monster. It is a patient sculptor, reshaping stars, stirring galaxies, keeping cosmic time. Without black holes, the universe would feel unfinished, like music missing its final note. They are the shadows that hold structure, the nothing that balances everything. And while you rest here, eyes closed, mind open, you are floating not above a thing, but beside a question. A shadow not of darkness, but of depth. You lie gently in the curved thought of space-time itself. Here even stillness bends. You breathe, The black hole doesn't roar, it hums. Its gravity is silent, but absolute. And in that silence you begin to wonder, if space can curve, can something this still ever move? What happens when shadows dance? Let's follow that ripple into the next chapter. You drift gently through the stillness of space, where silence stretches wider than time, and black holes, those silent giants, wait like ancient watchmen. You've come to know them by their appetite, by their gravity so fierce that not even light escapes. But tonight you pause at the edge of one, not to witness its hunger, but its giving. The airless dark surrounds you. Nothing stirs, yet you feel it, a soft flicker at the edge, a ghost light dancing near the event horizon. It is delicate, ephemeral, like frost blooming on glass. It is something black holes are not supposed to do. They are not supposed to shine, but this one does. And that glow barely there is your invitation to listen. Here, in this deep quiet, a strange kind of whisper rises from the void. Hawking radiation they call it. Not a storm, not a fire, but a gentle breath escaping from the edge of the unseeable. You may wonder, how can something escape a black hole? How can anything get out, when not even light can flee its pull? To understand, you float closer to the fabric of reality itself. Zoom in, and deeper still, until space becomes something less solid than it seemed. Down here, on the smallest scales, emptiness is never truly empty. Space quivers, it trembles, it lives with potential. All around the black hole, even in what seems like pure nothingness, particles flicker into being. These are virtual particles, twins born in a moment, destined to annihilate each other before time can blink. They appear and vanish, leaving no trace. But near the event horizon, something curious happens. A pair appears, particle and antiparticle, right at the edge, right on that silent border. In that fragile instant, gravity makes a choice. One particle falls in, the other escapes. And just like that, a black hole begins to lose a tiny sliver of itself. The one that falls carries with it negative energy, borrowing mass from the black hole's store. The one that escapes becomes real, moving outward, glowing faintly, and that shimmer you saw. It is that lone survivor, dancing away from the abyss. A black hole, it seems, can evaporate. Not suddenly, not loudly, but slowly, gently, in quantum size, and disappear in grams. Over eons, over lifetimes longer than stars remember, the black hole shrinks. And as it does, it glows a little brighter. You drift beside it, watching the impossible become natural. It's like seeing an old mountain breathe mist, after millennia of silence. The more mass the black hole loses, the hotter it gets, the smaller it becomes, the faster it fades. Until, one day, though no eye may be there to see, it might simply vanish in a final shimmer. A death not with thunder, but with a hush. You think of this paradox, a hole that glows, a devourer that gives. You think of the mathematics that predicted it, how Stephen Hawking, with pen and mind, reached into this strange intersection of gravity and quantum law, and you imagine him, seeing this truth emerge from the darkness like starlight. Something so gentle, so odd, it took the meeting of giants, Einstein's curved space and quantum uncertainty to reveal it. You wonder too, what happens to the information inside, the things that fell in, light, matter, stories, do they go with it, evaporated into nothing? Or are they written into the whispering light? This is a puzzle not yet solved, but in this bedtime moment, it feels enough to know that even the darkest things may not last forever, that even black holes can let go. You rest in that thought for a while, floating near the glowing edge. You watch the slow, quiet dance of quantum flickers. You begin to see the universe, not as silent, but as soft-spoken. Its secrets unfold like petals, not shouted, but offered with a pause. The black hole hums its gentle decline. The radiation is not loud, but it is persistent. It sings of impermanence, of all things passing, of endings that unfold gently. You feel a kind of peace in this, as though even cosmic death is not a violence, but a soft unraveling. In your mind's eye, you imagine a black hole at its final breath, tiny now, no bigger than an atom, yet still burning hotter than the heart of a star. One last flicker, one last quantum gasp, then silence. Nothing remains, or perhaps something does, some whisper, some trace, some echo, folded into the radiation, some clue of where it all went. The mystery lingers. You begin to drift again, away from the shrinking black hole, letting the image blur behind you. There is more to explore, more questions gently knocking at the edge of your thoughts. If even black holes can fade, you wonder what becomes of the universe itself. If mass can vanish, if light can flee, then what waits in the long quiet tale of time? You turn slowly toward the next question, the next curiosity rising, like a soft ripple through space. And the stars seem to lean closer, ready to tell you more. The sky above you is velvet, scattered with stars, but your attention is drawn not to the light, but to the silence that surrounds it. A deeper dark, a singular place where time seems to pause. There, resting quietly in the cosmic sea, is a black hole. You drift closer, though not with urgency. There is no rush here, just curiosity, just wonder. The black hole does not roar, does not devour with violence. It waits, it breathes, if breathing can be stretched across eons. And yet, even now, even here, something unseen is beginning to change. It starts with a flicker, not light, not heat, but possibility. You've arrived at a moment, balanced on uncertainty. In the quantum world, even the emptiness of space is restless. It wriggles with particles brief and breathless, appearing and vanishing like sparks in water. They come in pairs, one matter, one antimatter, one a question, the other its answer. They cancel each other perfectly, like a sigh swallowed back into the throat. But near the edge of a black hole at the event horizon, where gravity bends reality into a curve so sharp, even time hesitates the rules. Stretch, one particle falls in, the other escapes. A marriage is broken by the pull of gravity. The escaping particle becomes real, as if plucked from the fabric of nothing by a hand made of tension. It flies free, while its twin vanishes into the black hole, slipping into a place where beginnings forget to end. This is Hawking radiation. You might think the black hole roars louder now, lashing out, but no, this is not that kind of release. This is loss, slow and inevitable, like warmth leaking from your skin on a cold morning. The black hole shrinks, not quickly, but irreversibly. It is losing mass, giving up itself particle by particle. Borrowed energy returned to the universe, like old promises being kept. You float in this stillness, watching. The black hole is not angry. It is not dying in the way a star dies. There is no final scream, no last light, only a soft retreat, as if a mountain decided, without fanfare, to become a hill. Entropy watches, with calm eyes. You've met entropy before. It is the quiet governor of order, the soft tilt toward randomness. It tells snowflakes to melt, forests to decay, and warm coffee to go cold. It doesn't rush, it just waits, and it wins, always. A black hole, once thought to be the ultimate prison of information, is now something more subtle. As it evaporates gently, gently the entropy around it rises. The mystery is not just how it loses mass, but whether it loses memory. Is the information about what once fell into it truly gone, or does the radiation whisper secrets as it leaves? You try to listen, but space does not answer. Some physicists believe that the black hole's radiation contains tiny clues in coded patterns like songs heard backwards, each note barely discernible. Others wonder if the information is forever locked behind the veil, unreachable to the rest of the universe. It is a paradox, one that makes your thoughts feel like water slipping through your fingers. The black hole continues to fade. You begin to notice the slow hush around it growing quieter still, like a breath waiting too long to be released. The black hole, once immense, is now smaller, impossibly dense, but lighter than before. Its gravity weakens, its pull softens, it becomes less of a monster, more of a memory. This, too, is a form of grace, and as you drift you begin to sense a larger rhythm, a balance, not imposed, but emergent. The energy that once fell inward is now finding its way back out. Not all at once, not completely, but enough. Enough to restore what was borrowed. You think of the way night surrenders to morning, not with a switch but with a slow bleeding of shadow into light. The stars do not protest. They simply continue shining. You think of breath, the way it enters, and then must leave. The way warmth on skin eventually escapes to the cold. Nothing is held forever. And you think of uncertainty, how it hides behind certainty, like a child behind a curtain, peeking out just long enough to remind you that even the firmest truth is held together by doubt. This moment is held in tension, a cosmic inhale. The black hole, once the end of everything, now offers a kind of promise, that nothing, not even the deepest collapse, is beyond the reach of change, that even the most complete silence can still hum with possibility. You linger, and in that stillness, begin to feel the next question stir. If black holes can evaporate, where does their essence go? If information cannot be destroyed, how does the universe remember? Some suggest remnants, tiny final forms of black holes that remain after the radiation ends. Others imagine holographic horizons, where every piece of lost information is preserved like ink beneath disappearing light. And some wonder if perhaps reality itself is woven from these questions, from the tug between what disappears and what remains. The black hole shimmers once more, smaller now, lighter. Its edges blur, like heat mirage on distant sand. It is no longer what it was, but perhaps in its loss, it becomes something new, a riddle folded into the sky. You float with this thought: the universe does not close doors, it breathes through them. Let go of needing the answer. Let the paradox be your cradle. Trust that the story continues and that questions are not walls but windows. Drift onward, now, toward the idea that the cosmos is not just made of stars and space, but of rules that bend gently at the edges, of particles that tunnel through impossibility, of truths that shimmer, just out of reach. You drift now, closer to the edge of something immense. A silence hums here, not absence but pressure, as if time itself is holding its breath. The black hole before you no longer feels like an object. It feels like a boundary, a place where the rules you've trusted begin to melt, like wax near a flame. You float calmly, not falling yet. Around you, the stars remain steady, but the black hole's gravity whispers of something ancient and strange. There is no sound, but you can feel the ticking of clocks, not yours, but others. Somewhere far behind, someone is watching you, and their seconds tick away much faster than yours. This is the beginning of gravitational time dilation. Imagine placing a clock on a mountaintop and another at sea level. The one on the mountaintop ticks a tiny bit faster, not because it's broken but because it's farther from Earth's center, from gravity. Now imagine your clock is beside a black hole, where gravity is nearly infinite. The ticking slows, almost to a crawl. A single second stretches like taffy, pulled thinner and thinner, until it nearly disappears. You float just above the event horizon, the point of no return. To someone watching from far away, your descent seems to freeze. They would see you move slower and slower, the light from your body redshifting until it fades into darkness. But to you, time feels unchanged. Your thoughts continue, unbothered by the creeping grip of the gravitational well. It is not your mind that slows, it is the universe around you that speeds up. From your vantage point, 1,000 years might pass beyond the event horizon, while you experience only minutes. Empires could rise and fall, stars could be born, burn and die, galaxies could spin their grand spirals and dissolve into emptiness. And yet you hover, timeless, at the edge. It feels impossible, and yet it's real, proven not only by Einstein's equations but by satellites in our skies. GPS wouldn't work if we didn't correct for the tiny difference in time experienced up there versus down here. Time flows differently depending on where and how you are, but here, near a black hole, that difference is no longer small. It's cosmic. Time becomes syrup, honey dripped on cold stone. The seconds stretch and refuse to fall. You begin to feel unpinned from cause and effect, as if each moment floats, no longer linked in a chain but scattered like feathers on a breeze. You reach for memory. Even thought seems slower now, more contemplative, as though your own mind is yielding to the curvature of time itself. You begin to think of people you left behind, of moments you shared, of the way time stitched them together. Laughter, silence, motion, and how fragile it all becomes when the loom of time unravels. Back home, clocks tick. They mark birthdays, solstices, and seasons. But here they lose their rhythm. A birthday might pass in the blink of your eye, or never come at all. To them you've stopped. To you they blur into streaks of fast-forwarded light. And yet you feel no panic, only awe. This place asks for reverence. It is a temple to time itself, and you are kneeling at its edge. You look outward, toward the stars that still glitter, unchanged. They remind you of your own heartbeat, slow, steady, undisturbed by the chaos of perception. You begin to realize, time dilation isn't just a physical effect. It's an invitation to perspective, to let go of the illusion that time is universal, that we all march to the same drum. We don't. We never have. You and I, sitting under different skies, experience time through different filters: memory, emotion, gravity, attention. The black hole simply exaggerates what's already true, that time is not a ruler, but a river, winding, bending, speeding and slowing, depending on the terrain. And here in the deepest curve of space-time, the river pools. If you chose to cross the event horizon now, you would leave the outside universe forever. No signal could escape, no message could return. To the universe, you'd be frozen in place. But from within you'd move forward, unbound. Where would you go? What would you feel? We don't know. The equations falter there, in that unknowable place. But before that edge right here, where you hover, we can observe. We can calculate, and we can imagine. You begin to notice your own breath. Slow, long, each inhale a paragraph, each exhale a page. Time is different here, and so you read the story differently. Every thought holds its weight. Every memory becomes crystalline. You think of light now, how it bends near massive bodies. Gravity curves space, and space curves the path of light. So light, like time, obeys a different geometry here. You wonder if light can be bent. Can memory? Can hope? Are they also subject to the strange physics of emotion and space? You are not falling yet, but you are closer. The edge beneath you gleams with invisible meaning, and the closer you come, the more time sighs long, slow and silent. You are entering a liminal space, neither here nor there, not quite frozen, and not yet moving. This is the moment before the dive, the breath before the leap. You could stay here forever, suspended in syrupy time, watching the universe unfold in flashes. Or you could fall and find out what waits beyond the edge. You close your eyes, the clocks behind you race. The clocks within you rest, and somewhere ahead, time does something strange. You are ready. But before you fall, you ask one final question. If time can stretch and bend, can it ever loop? Could there be places where it folds in on itself, like a circle made of memory? And so we begin to wonder. There is a place in the universe where edges blur and certainty wavers, a place where light itself hesitates, caught on the cusp of silence. Here lies the event horizon, not a wall, not a gate, but a veil. You drift toward it now, slowly, as if in a dream shaped by gravity's whisper. You imagine a black hole, a darkened star collapsed in upon itself, its mass so dense that space bows deeply, and time thins to a thread. Yet it's not the black hole itself you reach for, but the mystery wrapped around it like silk. The event horizon, this veil does not push or pull, it simply is. It marks a boundary. Yes, but not in the way walls do. Rather, it is the threshold where light surrenders, where signals cease, where outward becomes inward, irreversibly. From the outside you see nothing pass through. You only watch as objects approach the veil, and then slow and slow, until time seems to freeze them, hanging just above the edge. But this stillness is a trick of perception, like watching a ship vanish into mist. The ship moves on, but your eyes are left with only silence. Inside the veil, the story continues, but not for you. Now, let's return to the question whispered by curious minds for decades. If nothing escapes a black hole, not light, not matter, then what becomes of the information that falls inside? Information, a delicate word in physics. It means not just the object itself, but its structure, its history, its blueprint. The pattern of particles, their arrangements and relationships, like the folds in a letter or the grain of wood. You drop a book into a fire, and its pages curl into ash. But the information, in theory, still exists dispersed in heat, whispered in smoke, encoded in molecules fleeing upward. Physics demands that information cannot be truly destroyed. But black holes, they seem to forget. Stephen Hawking once proposed something radical, that black holes radiate very slowly through what we now call Hawking radiation. Tiny quantum fluctuations near the horizon create pairs of particles, one falls in, one escapes. And as this continues, the black hole loses mass, it shrinks, it evaporates, it vanishes. But where then did the information go? Did it melt into nothingness, like ink in rain, unrecoverable and lost forever? Or is it somehow encoded in the horizon's fading breath, etched into the radiation itself so faintly that only the patient mind of the universe could read it? This is the black hole information paradox, a puzzle that stretches minds and models, a quiet confrontation between general relativity and quantum theory, two pillars of modern physics, and yet here, at this veil, they argue softly in contradiction. You pause here, floating in thought just beyond the horizon, where the paradox curls like mist. Some say the information is not lost, but smeared across the event horizon itself, stored in two dimensions, like a hologram. This is the holographic principle, a shimmering idea, suggesting that the 3D world within may be described entirely by what lies on the 2D surface outside. Others speak of black hole complementarity, that information is both lost and preserved, depending on where you stand and what you measure. Truth becomes perspective, like dreams remembered differently by two people. Still others believe in firewalls, a band of fierce quantum flame just inside the horizon that burns away any information that tries to pass. But this raises a troubling thought. Would this fire destroy not just data but you? No answer is comfortable, and maybe that's the lesson. The veil of no return isn't just around a black hole, it wraps our understanding too. And still Hawking's radiation continues, ever so slowly, like a sigh that takes eons to complete. A final exhale from a dying star, each photon escaping with a hint of the story inside. Could you, given enough time, decode the pattern in those sighs? Could you reconstruct what was lost? A planet, a tree, a heartbeat, a thought? Some say yes, that information is never truly gone, only rearranged, hidden, scattered in forms too subtle for now. Others wonder if the information ever mattered at all, if the universe isn't a ledger of details, but a poem fleeting and beautiful in its impermanence. And so you float by the event horizon, that quiet veil that does not speak. Its silence is not absence, but deep contemplation. You do not press your hand against it, you only watch and wonder if one day the veil might lift and reveal that it was not a boundary at all, but a mirror, reflecting not what is lost, but what we still don't know how to see. And as this thought lingers, you feel the pull of the next question beginning to take shape, like a ripple moving outwards in space-time. If the horizon speaks in riddles, then what do the ripples beyond it mean? You are drifting in a quiet corner of the universe, where everything has long since stilled. Stars have gone cold, galaxies have thinned to whispers, time feels heavy, stretched so far it no longer ticks, it breathes. And in the midst of this great cosmic silence, you find it a black hole, ancient and alone. Once, it was a devourer of stars, a titan of gravity, a wound in space where light could not escape. Now it is something else, a glowing ember in the dark, not from heat, but from memory. You float nearby, close enough to feel the absence it creates, but far enough to be safe in your watching. The air is calm, the void is soft, and the black hole, it is evaporating. Hawking radiation, that's what they called it. A whisper from the edge. Not fire, not steam, not even light in the usual sense, just the slow loss of mass, one particle at a time, seeping out from the border of nothingness. You picture it like mist rising from a still lake, a shimmer that speaks of change, of letting go. It begins with a quantum dance. Out here in the coldest places, emptiness is never truly empty. Space is alive with flickers, particle pairs born of uncertainty, blinking into existence before annihilating again. Normally this happens everywhere, unnoticed, unremarkable. But near the edge of a black hole, the event horizon, the rules bend. Sometimes, just sometimes, a particle escapes. Its partner falls in. The one that leaves carries a bit of the black hole with it, a fraction of its mass, a droplet of its being. And so, slowly, over time uncountable, the black hole fades, not in a flash, but in a hush. You imagine this process like candlelight that's turned inward, a flame consuming itself. It's not sad, it's not violent. It is simply the way of things, the long, slow exhale of something that once inhaled entire stars. No one watches, not anymore. But you do, and as you do, you feel the scale of it. Time stretches beyond all memory. The black hole's life spans longer than the age of galaxies. It sees the universe change states from brilliant and crowded to quiet and cold. It remembers warmth not as sensation, but as echo. Its evaporation is the final breath of complexity in a universe now simple again. There's a beauty in this, a peaceful surrender. You think of ancient trees letting go of their last leaves, of old songs fading on a breeze that no longer carries sound, of twilight stretched so long it becomes forever. The black hole, once a creature of hunger, has become a place of release. You wonder what it feels like from the inside. If there's anything at all, no one knows. Maybe it is pure silence, or maybe it's a place of transformation, the boundary between what was and what will never be again. The final moment is so distant still, but inevitable. And as it shrinks, paradoxically, it grows hotter. Smaller black holes radiate more intensely. The final phases, when they come, will not be slow. There will be a flare, a burst of light from something that has known only darkness, like a whisper turning into a song sung once then gone. But that moment is not now. For now the black hole continues its quiet disappearance, bit by bit. You watch as the edge becomes less sharp, less certain. The gravity is still immense, but not infinite. The pull is softer, the shadow thinner. What once seemed eternal now feels fragile. A reminder that nothing, not even a singularity, escapes the soft erosion of time. You are moved by this, not saddened but stilled. There is wisdom here, a lesson in humility. Even the universe's most enduring mysteries dissolve eventually into quiet. You begin to drift backward, giving space to this slow ceremony, and as you do, you imagine the black hole's final days. One day, far in the future, when the last star has gone cold and the last photon has faded, the black hole will finish its long goodbye, and then, a flicker, a final wave of radiation, a last note, sung to no audience, echoing across a universe emptied of listeners. It will mark the end not just of the black hole but of structure itself. Entropy will have won, not with a shout but with a breath. Still, even then something remains. Not matter, not motion, but memory. You feel it in the silence. The universe remembers its stories, and so do you. You carry this moment, the witnessing of quiet transformation, like a candle in your mind. Gentle, steady, warm. Somehow, even in the cold, you close your eyes, not to sleep, but to listen. And as you listen, you hear nothing, not because there is no sound, but because there is only peace. And perhaps that is what all things seek. In the end, not to last forever, but to end gently. Time continues, but you feel no need to follow it quickly. You are adrift in wonder, in softness, in the slow and sacred unraveling of gravity itself. The black hole fades, and with it, a chapter of the cosmos closes. And just before it disappears completely, you feel something stir in your thoughts, a question rising like mist. If even gravity lets go, what then becomes of time itself? There is a hush in the universe. Not silence, but something softer. A great quieting. You drift near a black hole that is no longer what it once was. Its hunger has faded, its pull weakened. Where it once howled across space-time, now it sighs, exhaling particles through the faint breath of Hawking radiation. Its mass dwindles, not in a sudden collapse, but in slow evaporative release. Gravity, the mighty sculptor of galaxies, the architect of stars, the tyrant that once ruled this space, is fading. You watch it dim like a lantern in the fog, still glowing, but no longer burning. The black hole's influence wanes, and with it, the web of tension it wove around itself loosens. Space, once pulled taut, begins to exhale. Nearby stars, once subtly leaning toward the black hole's gravity, straighten in their orbits. They no longer feel the tug of the invisible predator in the dark. The balance shifts. It's delicate, but noticeable, like a stringed instrument retuned to gentler harmonies. The stars breathe easier, and their light seems somehow freer, as though unburdened by something unseen. Even the galaxy responds. A spiral arm, once curved slightly inward by the gravitational insistence of the black hole, unfurls just a touch. Gas clouds settle into calmer motion, no longer stirred by the fierce gravity that once disturbed them. Dust, drifting in the deep halo of the galaxy, finds peace in smoother orbits. There is no celebration, no sudden transformation, only the slow settling of long-held tension. You drift further out, and the feeling becomes more apparent. The whole neighborhood of space feels lighter. It's not a physical lightness, not exactly, but more like the absence of weight you didn't know you were carrying. This dying black hole, once the center of chaos and influence, now becomes a memory. Its voice, once deep and commanding, has thinned into a whisper, and still, it gives not in destruction, but in release. Each particle of radiation it emits carries a story. Each tiny photon or antiparticle is like a page torn gently from the past. You imagine the early days when the black hole was young, perhaps formed from the collapse of a massive star. It roared then, invisible but irresistible, pulling in matter, bending light, anchoring the hearts of galaxies with its ferocity. That time is gone now. The fire is fading. The black hole is shrinking, inch by inch, losing mass not to other objects, but to the universe itself through the slow erosion of time, through physics painted in soft quantum strokes. All around, the cosmos adjusts. It doesn't mourn, it simply adapts. That's the way of space, resilient, patient, responsive. Nothing is truly lost. It is transformed. The energy the black hole gives up goes outward, adding the faintest heat to the cold tapestry of the cosmos. Even light behaves differently here now. No longer trapped, it dances freely around the fading black hole, no longer warped so drastically, no longer imprisoned by intense gravity. Photons curve more gently now, still bent, but not swallowed. Space has softened, and still you float slowly through this tranquil moment in time. You begin to notice that there is a kind of rhythm here, not just in the pulsing decay of the black hole's energy, but in how the universe receives it. Galaxies are always moving, always shifting. But when a black hole weakens, the dance of stars alters just slightly. They move with a new kind of freedom, as if one of the dancers has left the floor, and the others adjust their steps. Gravitational waves, once rippling strongly from the black hole's interactions, become fewer, fainter. The music softens. It's strange to think of gravity as something that could diminish. It is so constant, so powerful, but like all things, it is not eternal in its present form. The black hole teaches this, that even the strongest forces wear down, even giants grow quiet. And in that quiet, something remarkable happens. Balance emerges. Galaxies without the dominating force of central black holes become more even-handed, less tilted toward consumption. There is room for different patterns to emerge. Maybe slower formations, maybe more stable arrangements of stars. The black hole's exit is not an end. It is the opening of new cosmic possibilities. You imagine this moment multiplied thousands of black holes across the universe, all dying their slow whispering deaths. And what follows is not emptiness, but calm, a stillness seeded with potential. And in that stillness perhaps a deeper question hums: if gravity can fade, if even black holes can vanish, what else lies ahead for the universe? What happens when all things lose their pull, when all tension finally releases? The stars still shine, but they too will one day fade. The galaxies still spin, but one day their motion will slow. Everything is a journey. Everything is change. And here, near this quieting black hole, you feel the universe not ending but exhaling. You close your eyes and float, weightless. The echoes of gravity fade into the background, replaced by the faint rustle of quantum thoughts, the ones that whisper not in forces and mass, but in probabilities and paradox. You sense them already, those quantum tremors on the horizon. As gravity fades, something else begins to speak. And that voice, soft and subtle, is where the next journey leads. You are floating in a silence so complete, it seems to echo. The stars have long gone cold, no galaxies to spin, no suns to burn, just a vast velvety hush. And in this hush, a black hole, evaporating. You do not see it directly. You feel it, the way a tree feels wind, invisible, but sure. The hole has shrunk now, from a roaring beast of gravity to a pebble on the floor of the cosmos. A last ember flickering in the darkness. It spits out one final photon, light born from the edge of oblivion. It dances outward, alone, unaware of the histories that once swirled around this place. You drift closer, not with steps, but with attention, as if drawn by curiosity more than motion. And there, where the black hole once lived, you find no body, no mark, no wound, just a trembling in the fabric, a shimmer in the silence. Something was here, something immense, and now it is not. But its fingerprint lingers, not in form but in the whisper of fields, quantum fields, ever present, ever gentle, flutter like curtains in an absent wind. They hold the memory, not in lines or symbols, but in probability, the soft language of might have been. You listen, and you realize this is not emptiness. This is aftermath, not a void, but a canvas washed clean, with the faintest outlines still visible in the grain. You remember what the physicists said: information, once written into the universe, is never truly lost. It may scatter, it may blur, but it persists. Somewhere in the flutter of this invisible sea, every particle that fell, every photon that fled, is accounted for, not as things, but as relationships, echoes, interference patterns in the grand tapestry. And so you begin to feel it, the story still here, not in chapters, but in waves, like ripples on water long after the stone has sunk. Some call it the quantum ghost, the echo of a being that has vanished, yet refuses to be unmade. It is not a spirit, not in the old sense, but something more precise, more tender, an imprint, a suggestion, a set of constraints still shaping the paths of all things that follow. Imagine a bell that has been struck, and though the metal is gone, the tone persists, humming in the bones of space. You float through this memory field, this silent music, and as you move, you disturb it, just slightly. The field reacts, as if recognizing you. You are not separate from it. You are a participant in its remembering, and you wonder, did the black hole know it was writing a story as it died, not in words but in patterns, curvatures, shifts in the surrounding silence? Maybe this is what remains, not mass, not light, but consequence, a kind of cosmic resonance, etched into the trembling web that holds everything. You drift further, and in the stillness, you feel another shift, a kind of warmth, but not of temperature, a familiarity, as if the field knows you too. Or rather, it knows that you are possible, because here, in the language of quantum, nothing is certain, only allowed, only probable. You begin to sense your own outline in this probability cloud, not your body, but your potential, a map of all the ways you could have been. And if that is true for you, could it not also be true for the black hole? Could it still be here, not as matter, but as a complex geometry of could-have-beens? It is no longer a thing, it is a condition, a memory encoded in the laws of interaction. You close your eyes, and the space behind your eyelids hums. Tiny flickering uncertainties, each one a possible universe, each one touched, faintly, by what came before. Perhaps this is what remains when the last particle drifts away. Not ash, not ruin, but permission. The cosmos giving itself permission to remember, to continue, to ripple onward with new shapes, new chances, and you are not outside of it. You are part of that field, an event within its fabric, and in that realization, the silence shifts again, not louder, but deeper. Because now you know, every absence tells a story, and every story once told becomes the frame for the next. You begin to sense a trembling, in the far distance, not a particle, but a pulse, a new wave beginning, unformed, curious. And just as the black hole's end was not an end, this trembling is not yet a birth, but a question rising in the dark, like a single note at the beginning of a new composition. The stars above you do not shimmer tonight. They are silent, resting, like the hush after a long symphony. You are floating in the deep dark, now past galaxies curled like sleeping cats, past nebulae whose colors have faded as if the universe has drawn its final breath. You arrive at the place where a star once was, a giant, powerful, impossible star, one that burned with the hunger of a million suns, one that danced with time and laughed at gravity. But you came too late, or just in time. There is no explosion, no noise, just a trembling of space where something once lived. You hover at the edge of a quiet collapse, where the light has folded in on itself, where the fabric of space-time has pulled closed like curtains after a show. Here lies a black hole, not a monster, not a villain, just the echo of a life well burned. It is dark, yes, but not empty. It is dense, yes, but not cruel. You listen for the star's last words, not with ears, but with thought, and you hear something faint, a whisper not of sound but of evaporation, hawking radiation. You remember the name, like the whisper of someone who once explained the stars to you, particles slipping free from the edges of darkness, as if the universe is undoing its knots one strand at a time. This is not destruction, it is letting go, like snowflakes melting in sunlight, like letters faded on old paper. The black hole releases its mass, bit by bit, until only silence remains. You think of all the journeys this star has taken, from fusion-born infancy, to fiery youth, to collapse and rebirth as a singularity. Now even that is dissolving, and in its vanishing it leaves behind more mystery than it ever swallowed. You float nearby, unafraid, for here, time is stretched thin and slow. You can feel it bending around you, like the last notes of a lullaby that lingers long after it's over. You wonder what happens to information here. Where do the stories go when the pages are burned? You've heard the debates, scientists wrestling with paradox, grappling with the idea that nothing should truly be lost. But maybe, you think, not everything that disappears is gone. Maybe memory is written not in matter, but in the ripples left behind, the soft distortions in space-time, the slight tremble of existence after something meaningful has passed through. You drift backward now, as the last particles escape like fireflies, glowing only briefly before slipping into the cold. The black hole is almost gone, its gravity fading, its story ending, not with a bang, but with a long, soft exhale. And you feel lighter. You've carried the weight of curiosity, the fire of knowledge, the longing to know what lies beyond. Now, with the stars passing, you release it too, not the desire to understand, but the need to hold on to every answer. It is enough to have wondered, it is enough to have walked beside a star, to have watched it live and vanish, to have listened to the silence afterward. You are not separate from this universe. You are stitched into it, thread by thread, breath by breath. As the last atom of radiation drifts into the dark, you close your eyes. There is no light left, but the dark feels gentle now, not empty but full of rest. And here, in the stillness, you begin to feel a rhythm again, not from stars, not from time, but from something even deeper. A kind of memory, a pulse beneath the silence. Maybe the universe dreams, you think. Maybe this ending is part of something larger, the pause between inhaling and exhaling, between one breath and the next. You do not need to know what comes after. It is enough to float here, wrapped in the velvet quiet where the last star has faded, and nothing presses against your thoughts. Even the questions rest now, and in their silence you feel whole. The universe, once bright and burning, now hums softly in its sleep. You breathe in the silence. You let yourself become it, and in that becoming, you understand endings too are part of the story, not less beautiful, not less profound, just softer, quieter, necessary. The dark is not the absence of light, but the space where new wonders wait. You drift farther, not away from meaning, but deeper into it. A hush surrounds you, timeless, vast, serene, and just as your thoughts begin to dim, something flickers in the far-off dark, not an answer, not a beginning, but a question, and a quiet invitation to wonder again.